So, have you been paying attention to the markets lately? It's been wild. Gold and silver, they're hitting all-time highs, and that's shaking things up in a big way for global finance. But here's the thing. It's not just about the old-school precious metals. No way. This whole shift is creating these massive waves, and those waves could just launch Bitcoin into a totally different league. All right, let's get into it and figure out what is really going on here.
All right, here's how we're going to break this all down today. First, we'll hit the 2025 shockwave. Then we'll get into the BRICS gold rush. What's that all about? After that, we'll look at silver's twin engines, and of course where Bitcoin fits in as the digital alternative. And then, at the end, we'll wrap it all up with the key takeaways. Let's do it.
Okay, first stop, the 2025 shockwave. This was a really record-breaking year for precious metals, and it basically set the stage for all the crazy price action we're seeing right now. And look, the scale of this rally was just staggering. We are not talking about small gains here. Gold shot up an incredible 65%, but silver? Oh man, silver literally exploded, jumping 148%. These aren't just new price highs, you guys. This is the market making a huge statement. And this wasn't just some random out-of-the-blue spike. What we're seeing is almost a perfect mirror of what happened back in the 1970s. And if you remember, that was a decade of crazy geopolitical tension. Inflation was totally out of control, and the entire global money system was getting turned on its head. They say history doesn't repeat itself, but it sure does rhyme, right? And honestly, the parallels here are just impossible to ignore.
So, you gotta ask, what's really behind all this? Well, one of the main drivers is something we're calling the BRICS gold rush. And believe me, this isn't just about money or economics. It's a full-on geopolitical move designed to shake up the entire world order.
And their strategy, wow, it is audacious. The BRICS alliance, that's Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa, they have a goal to control up to 70% of all global gold by 2026. Think about that. This is a direct challenge to the US dollar's dominance. It's a huge move toward what everyone's calling de-dollarization, and it's being led by China and Russia just buying up gold like there's no tomorrow.
So, why now? What's the trigger? Well, this right here is a pretty big clue. The U.S. fiscal deficit is at 6.1%. Now, to put that in perspective, the 50-year average is only 3.8%. So, when you see that level of government spending and borrowing, it starts to raise some serious red flags about the dollar's long-term health. And that's what's making other countries start to look around for a plan.
And here's what that looks like in the real world. It's not just the BRICS countries doing this. We're seeing central banks all over the globe starting to diversify their holdings. They're moving away from things that used to be considered super safe, like U.S. treasuries. You could call it a quiet rebellion, but really, it's a powerful vote of no confidence in the way things have been done for decades.
All right, let's switch gears and talk about silver, because its story is absolutely fascinating. It's basically being supercharged by these two powerful engines, both firing at the same time. A serious imbalance between supply and demand.
So here's the deal with silver. What makes it so unique? It's got this split personality. On one side, yeah, it's a monetary metal, a store of value, kind of like its big brother gold. But on the other side, it's an industrial powerhouse. It's absolutely essential for so much of our modern tech. And honestly, right now, that industrial side is driving the whole story.
So where is all this industrial demand coming from? In a word, the green energy revolution. Think about it. Solar panels, they need silver. Electric vehicles need silver. Pretty much all our modern electronics, you guessed it, they need silver. To put it simply, you absolutely cannot build the green future without a ton of silver, period.
Okay, so this is the crucial point, right? You've got this skyrocketing industrial demand crashing head-on into a major supply crunch. Get this. For 5 years in a row, the world has actually used more silver than has been mined out of the ground. This isn't just a temporary hiccup. This is a deep, structural problem in the market.
And what happens when you have a squeeze like that? Well, this is the explosive result. That supply crunch sends silver on an absolutely parabolic run, all the way to a record high of over $84 an ounce in 2025. But And this is important. It also shows you just how volatile silver can be, because right after that peak, it had a sharp, sudden correction. A classic silver move for anyone who's been watching.
Okay, so all this volatility in the old school metals, it brings us right to the big question, the one for our community. With all this chaos in the traditional world, where does Bitcoin fit into the picture? Is it actually becoming the go-to anti-fiat asset for this new era we're entering? But first, let's make sure we're on the same page. What even is an anti-fiat asset? Well, simply put, it's anything that holds its value outside of regular government-issued money, like the dollar or the euro. You can think of it like an escape hatch, a way to protect yourself when governments print way too much money and your savings start losing value to inflation.
So, Bitcoin's whole appeal here really boils down to three key things. Number one, its absolute unchangeable digital scarcity. There will only ever be 21 million Bitcoin. That's it, period. Number two, it's decentralized. That means no single government or bank can control it. You know, the same governments and banks that might be having some of those money problems we just talked about. And number three, you combine those first 2 points, and what do you get? The potential for a really powerful, incorruptible hedge against inflation.
And hey, don't just take my word for it. Listen to what crypto investor Anthony Pompliano says. He points out that Bitcoin's value proposition as digital gold strengthens in this environment. And that really nails it, doesn't it? The more shaky the traditional system looks, the more solid the argument for Bitcoin gets. Okay, so we've covered a lot of ground. Let's pull this all together and look at the key takeaways. I mean, what does this all actually mean for the future of money? This table really lays it out perfectly. You've got 3 different assets, but each one has its own unique story. So for gold, the main driver is geopolitical. It's all about central banks losing faith in the dollar. Then you've got silver. Its story is industrial, right? It's being driven by the green energy boom and that massive supply deficit. And finally, Bitcoin. Its story is purely digital. It's an answer to governments devaluing their currencies and the search for something truly scarce. But here's the most important part. Even though they have these 3 different stories, they are all part of one single massive trend. What we're really watching play out is a global search for something real, for a reliable store of value, in a world that's starting to question everything it thought it knew about money. And that really just leaves us with one huge, overarching question. As the old financial system keeps getting challenged, what's going to win out? What becomes the ultimate store of value in this new digital age? Is it going to be the shiny yellow metal, the industrial workhorse, or is it going to be a string of decentralized code? I'd love to know what you think. Look, these are the kinds of trends that are going to define the next decade for sure. If you want to keep exploring all the forces that are shaping our financial future, do me a favor and make sure you subscribe to Crypto Explorer 24/7. Thanks so much for hanging out with me today.
You know, something really interesting is happening right now in the financial world. We're seeing precious metals surge to levels we've never seen before. And honestly, it's sending a huge signal about the global economy. So let's dive right in and figure out what this all means, especially for those of us in the world of crypto.
I mean, just take a look at these numbers from a single day. Gold's up almost 1.5%, which, that's a pretty strong move. But then you look at silver, wow, it absolutely took off, jumping a staggering 4%. This is way more than just a little market noise. This is a major event.
And to give you some real perspective on that gold surge, in India, it just hit a brand new peak, over 141,000 rupees for just 10 grams. We're talking about all-time record highs here, prices that have literally never been seen before. And silver? Well, its rally is even more insane. It hit a new lifetime high in India of almost 264,000 rupees per kilogram. The market is definitely trying to tell us something big. So that brings us to the big question, right? Moves like this don't just happen out of nowhere. What in the world is fueling this fire? Why are investors suddenly rushing into precious metals like their hair's on fire?
Well, the answer seems to be a perfect storm of uncertainty. This whole surge is basically being driven by 2 massive forces hitting at the exact same time: rising geopolitical chaos and some serious doubts about the economy. Let's break down that first part.
If you look around the globe right now, there are just so many pressure points. You've got heightened tensions in Iran, you've got these ongoing trade disputes, and now there's even a new U.S. bill threatening some absolutely massive tariffs on the BRICS nations. We're talking Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa. It's a very tense and nervous global picture.
And look, this isn't just me guessing here. As one commodity expert put it, this assertive foreign policy is directly fueling uncertainty in the financial markets. It's simple, really. When governments make unpredictable moves, investors get scared, and they immediately start looking for somewhere safe to park their money.
Okay, so let's shift gears to the second huge factor here, because it's not just about politics. There's also this deep, growing anxiety about the economy itself.
So a really crucial piece of the puzzle is what's happening over in the US. There's a ton of uncertainty around what the Federal Reserve is going to do, and more people are expecting them to cut interest rates. Now, whenever the market starts sniffing out rate cuts, it almost always puts pressure on that country's currency. And in this case, we're talking about the US dollar.
And here's the proof in the pudding. This is a US dollar index. It basically measures the dollar's strength against a bunch of other major currencies. And as you can see, it's down. That's a huge sign of shaky confidence. And a weaker dollar makes things priced in dollars like gold and silver cheaper for buyers around the world, which just pours more fuel on the fire.
All of this leads us to a really core idea in finance, the safe haven asset. Honestly, this is the key to understanding everything that's going on. When the markets get choppy and uncertain, investors don't just sell off, they look for a safe harbor to protect their cash.
So when you combine all that geopolitical fear with all that economic fear, you trigger a classic textbook market reaction, a flight to safety. Capital just starts pouring out of assets that feel risky, like maybe stocks, and into assets that people believe will hold their value, or even go up during a crisis.
You can actually map out the whole journey right here. It's a super logical chain of events. First, global uncertainty starts to rise. That makes traditional assets and currencies look a little weaker. So in response, capital starts looking for safety. And for centuries, that safe place has been gold and silver, which causes their prices to just take off.
And again, don't just take my word for it. We've got analysts on the ground seeing this exact behavior. As Manoj Kumar Jain says, these conditions are causing investors to flock to safe haven assets like gold and silver. It's a textbook response to global anxiety.
All right, so this is where the story gets really interesting for us. We've laid out what's happening in the traditional markets and why it's happening. Now let's build the bridge to the digital world.
For literally thousands of years, physical gold and silver have been the go-to asset when things get tough. And why is that? Well, they're real, they're tangible, they're accepted everywhere, and their value doesn't depend on a government's promise to pay you back. Their role as the ultimate safe haven is basically baked into our financial DNA.
But here's the billion-dollar question for our time, right? In this new digital age, will a whole new generation of investors turn to the asset that so many people call digital gold? On one hand, you have people who say Bitcoin, with its fixed supply and decentralized network, is the perfect modern safe haven. On the other hand, you have critics who point to its volatility. The answer isn't clear yet, but the question itself, that's shaping the entire future of finance. Okay, we've covered a ton of ground here, so let's just take a second and boil this all down to the key points from this whole explainer.
Here's the whole story in 4 simple steps. Number 1, the surge. Gold and silver are hitting prices we've never seen before. Number 2, the cause. It's all being driven by this powerful cocktail of global tension and economic doubt. 3, the effect. This is causing that classic flight to safety. And finally, number 4, the question this all leaves us with. Is Bitcoin next in line to wear that safe haven crown?
So if there's one big thing to take away from all this, it's this. What we're seeing isn't just about gold and silver prices. It's about a fundamental human need. In times of global chaos and volatility, the hunt for a reliable, trustworthy place to store your value always intensifies.
And the question of which asset is going to fill that role in the future, well, that's one of the most important stories playing out in finance today. If you want to keep exploring how all these global events are shaping the crypto space, make sure you're subscribed to Crypto Explorer 24/7. Thanks for tuning in.